So good morning, everyone. First of all, welcome and thank you all for being here. Is it truly a pleasure to open this conference, not as just an organizer, but as someone who has been deeply involved in the space, working at the intersection of medicine, engineering, and AI for many years. So over the past decade, through my work with medtech pioneers in innovation and Synapses Ventures, and at Stanford, along colleagues from Stanford and leading institutions like MD Anderson, including my co-chair Chirag Patel, we work with diverse group of clinicians, engineers, scientists, researchers, and founders. Actually, our story with Chirag Patel goes years back when we were both started as postdoc here. I mean, he's a neuro-oncologist, he works with brain. I'm coming from biophysics, bioengineering, AI background. I remember one of our meetings on Saturday. We just discussed back and forth, just more than 8 hours at early cancer detection center here. So I tried to understand what brain needs or brain is, and then he tried to understand what, as a technologist, what we can offer. So I developed several medical device technologies in the past, including smart lens, like sensors for brain and heart, and but we just realized many things needed in different spaces. So in brain space, Chirag and I have been working on different technologies. But first meeting took 8 hours to understand each other, but it didn't finish there. So another experience we have as an MPI, we decided to develop technology for elderly, for understanding their cognitive and physical decline. And almost over a year, we worked with 3 professors and special clinicians specialized in physical rehab, and 2 AI scientists, and one data scientist, data engineer. So over a year, we understood the problem, what solution we need, and then we really developed a great model to understand early decline, physical decline of elderly, and also we just designed AI experiments. So it takes a lot of talk and conversation to just understand each other and problem. That's what my story with Chirag and other physician clinicians, just like sitting together, working together on a common talk. It will just start from that small conversation. Before I go further, I'm just going to give you another example. My first technology, smart lens, where we build contact lens for eye pressure measurement, started in a lunch table. You might know the Professor Stephen Quake. And another ophthalmologist were having a lunch, and then the Quake was saying, oh, we're developing small pressure sensors. And ophthalmologist says, oh, we use pressure in the eye. We need the pressure measurement in the eye. Can we do something together? Then after 10 years, we recently submitted our FDA for contact lens for eye pressure measurement device. So just those conversations start with small talks. That's what really our mission and main focus of this conference. Future of AI in healthcare is not a technology problem, it's a translation problem. There are already powerful tools, there are already data, there are already breakthroughs. But somehow those breakthroughs don't always translate to real clinical problems. So I give you those several examples that there are a lot of data that can help millions of people, but really there's neither clinician nor AI scientists know that that can be done. Then I'll give you small examples. I have a really great colleague of mine, she's a gynecologist, and then we've been talking so many years, which we didn't understand something we can work in common. Then later we understood that she was just talking about her problem. I asked her, can you work through us how you do some diagnostics? So she's doing ultrasound, looking at the endometriosis like tissues with ultrasound, and she has a lot of times we have problem to see those lesions. Then AI can come in there and help that. So that was a simple problem. She didn't think there was a need, and just now we are working on that problem. So there are a lot of gaps their misconception, fear, and fragmentation. People really understand AI just a ChatGPT. So a lot of clinicians also, I talk to some clinicians, they just say, like they're anti-AI clinicians. You can just really say that. You can see that a lot. I mean, you see people that this is unavoidable, AI will be there. So people reduced AI and data science to just to ChatGPT, getting giving your symptoms, getting advice from. It's not that. So many things, there's data out there, which I will give you several of these examples. The AI can help and address so many needs. So there are a lot of lack of full understanding what AI can actually do, a lot of fear around AI, and perhaps more importantly, misconception and misinformations. Some people think AI will replace physicians, others think it's not ready, something is too risky. It's because of this, many good things are simply not happening. Opportunities are missed, solutions are delayed, innovation slows down. Not because we cannot build it, because we are not aligned. So our approach, so instead of trying to solve everything at scale immediately, we started small. This is how we did it. We have almost over 10 projects ongoing MPI, 3 turned into a startup company, raised funding, and just started with a small conversation with clinicians, data scientists, and engineers. We brought together small groups of doctors, engineers, scientists, not for presentation, not for marketing, but for real conversations. We spend months, sometimes over a year, working closely with clinicians to understand what do they actually need in the clinics and in hospital, what problems matter in their daily practice, what data are truly useful, where can AI genuinely help, and not in theory, but in reality. So this process changed everything, because when you listen deeply, you realize AI is not a one solution. It's a spectrum of solutions spanning very different needs. So I have so many examples. I'm happy to discuss with people the rest of the day or days to see what examples I've learned. On one hand, you have very specific clinical applications, analyzing brain MRI images. So this is a really good example. Shirag and I have been working on that. We really have a hard time to accessing data for MRI images, trying to get a pseudotumor and true tumor progression data understanding, and helping clinicians not to go really unnecessary surgeries, or maybe right decision, and even looking at the MRI images of brain cancer patients. So another way, helping oncologists distinguish between tumor progression, treatment-related pseudo-progression, supporting more accurate and data-driven decisions. On another end, you have early detection behavioral insights, identifying subtle signals that someone may be at risk of falling, and detecting early changes in mental and physical health problems. Then expanding further in areas including mental health, cardiovascular disease, neurology, ophthalmology, population health. So applications are incredibly broad, but the key is alignment with real needs. So I will let Shirag to continue his part.
Okay, great. All right, well, thanks, Murat, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the conference. And as Murat mentioned, in kind of high-level introduction, there's a lot of different topics that will be discussed over the course of the next couple of days. And I'll kind of preview them with you, as well as kind of giving you little vignettes from a day-to-day clinical practice perspective of how all the work that you're doing and will be doing can help to impact and improve efficiencies and improve overall health delivery and quality of care for patients. So some of these examples include generative AI and agentic workflows. Beyond chatbots, agentic AI will aim to autonomously handle complex administrative tasks such as scheduling, billing, and coding, allowing clinicians to focus on patient care. And as a real-world example, just last week I received an email requesting a CPT, which is a billing code, for a procedure that I had requested on a patient, and I had no idea what the CPT code was, so then I kind of Googled it, and I sent like a copy and paste from what I found on Google, and then I CC'd some other people who are probably more aware of what's going on. And then about 10 emails later, and a few days later, we finally got the correct CPT codes. And as you can imagine, if we can use AI to help integrate the known information, such as billing codes, with existing workflows, then each member of the clinic team would be able to operate really at their highest scope of practice and not need to worry about things that are really out of their level of expertise. I'm certainly not a billing expert. In regards to ambient clinical intelligence, AI tools are already listening to patient-provider conversations, creating real-time automated notes in electronic health records, which significantly reduces documentation time. And I've benefited, from this in my own clinical practice since last year when our institution implemented this system, which really helps to provide a draft of our clinic notes with ambient listening. Of course, it's not perfect. We still have to spend some time reviewing and editing and making corrections, but I think it's a lot more efficient to do that than to spend extra time after the clinic visit and then type the note, or in an attempt to have real-time note-taking in the clinic room, have my back facing the patient based on how the room is arranged. In regards to predictive diagnostics and imaging, AI algorithms will be able to analyze imaging and patient data to predict illnesses like heart failure, cancer, et cetera, before symptoms appear, which would enable proactive rather than reactive care. And you can imagine emergency room workflows, for example. AI could be able to be implemented to help screen for the most time-sensitive imaging findings and bring them to the front of the work queue for the radiologist that's on call for the ER that day, for them to review and confirm those findings to really hasten the correct care that the patient needs. And so from this perspective, keeping the trained physician in the loop is critical to optimal diagnosis and management. In other words, there are some areas where autonomous AI may not be practical or safe, and so we have to kind of think about where those boundaries are. In regards to personalized medicine and therapeutics, AI will be able to analyze genetic, lifestyle, and environmental data to create highly personalized treatment plans for patients and tailor pharmaceutical interventions. Earlier this week, I attended a conference aimed at pathologists, and I saw some technologies that were integrating imaging, histology, and genomics into the same platform. And you can imagine that this would not only make clinicians more efficient, particularly pathologists, at formulating their diagnostic notes and reports, but would provide novel insights by breaking down the barriers between these isolated data, which are currently in silos in different departments across institutions and different hospitals. In regards to AI drug discovery in terms of therapeutic development, AI will drastically speed up the drug development lifecycle, identifying promising molecules in days rather than years, reducing costs and accelerating time to market. In terms of virtual health assistance and remote monitoring, AI-powered 24/7 conversational agents would be available to manage chronic conditions and monitor patients remotely via Internet of Medical Things and devices, both wearable and non-wearable devices. You could also imagine AI-assisted robotic surgery, whereby integration of AI with robotic systems will enhance surgical precision, guiding surgeons in real time and reducing procedural complications, particularly in complex anatomical regions. And so while there is certainly this is an exciting time for AI applications in the healthcare space, we can't lose sight of the fact that there are current challenges that we need to overcome. And I think that's going to be another great resource that we'll be able to discuss collectively over the course of the next couple of days. For example, as AI adoption accelerates, the industry is focusing on addressing ethical issues, including data privacy, algorithmic bias, and the need for robust regulatory frameworks to ensure safety. We also need to think about limits of improved clinician productivity as it pertains to AI integration into daily workflows. Keeping the physician in the loop when it comes to diagnostic and therapeutic decision-making is critical, and we need to ensure that reasonable expectations are set for physician productivity metrics, which can often be in opposition to the limits of the safe cognitive load that physicians are expected to have when they're making life and death decisions each day. And you may be familiar with the recently coined term of AI brain fry that I just heard about last week in the media, which has been used to define mental fatigue from excessive use or oversight of AI tools beyond one's cognitive ability or capacity. And AI brain fry is starting to affect sectors such as software engineering, and it will be important to ensure that this threat doesn't seep into other sectors like healthcare. Exchanging one source of overload, like excessive emails and patient messaging overload, for another source of overload, like overload from supervising and taking ultimate responsibility for AI tools and their outputs, will not reverse the alarming rates of burnout faced by healthcare providers in various specialties. So therefore, it will be necessary to comprehensively consider the intended and unintended consequences of AI integration to the healthcare system and workflows, ensuring that all stakeholders are involved in the deliberations. And I think this AI healthcare conference is an ideal forum to have these crucial conversations. So I'll hand it back to Murat to wrap up our introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's problems and solutions are really huge. There's a wide variety of topics that AI in medicine, AI in healthcare includes. But like, as go back to ChatGPT, an example that you can find everything, but it's just really a small solution or no solution at all. So what we do, we just divide problems into small niches, small groups, and we work with different clinicians. Like, for example, we have actually two colleagues, one from Dr. Oz from Wake Forest University and Dr. Mahmoud from Harvard. One studying cardiovascular space, the other pathology. We've been working them over a year. And then we see that in cardiovascular space, we try to go at a problem. We say, oh, there's 4 other problems there when we talk to doctors. So we need 4 products, not 1 product. And pathology, well, we said, oh, we can improve the diagnostic of pathologists and then accuracy. When just we realize that the problem more beyond that. So then only 2% of the pathologists use digital pathology. And then they use this regular pathology reporting using microscopy imaging reporting. So there is like a 95 to 98% of pathologists still doesn't use the, like even digital pathology. This is not even AI. Digital pathology is just a really bigger umbrella. So and when we go there, we see there are really 10 other problems. People need more other solutions than improving the accuracy. So as you talk more, go more deep in these conversations, that you understand that you need to work on those small niche problems. That small niche problem can really help millions of patients, literally. I mean, you will see, you'll hear from Dr. Oz and Dr. Mahmoud that they're really specifically working on specific problems. And there's specific problems in every year. In one of them, there's several million patients emerging. The other one is 500,000 patients emerging in every year. They're small problems, but it's not small. So every patient's life is very important. So why this conference matters? This conference is not just about showcasing technology, it's about bridging research and clinical practice. Connecting builders with users, aligning innovation with real healthcare needs. As highlighted in our conference vision, it's not about moving from precision to population, from individual breakthroughs to system-wide transformation. So today and tomorrow, we encourage you to ask real questions, challenge assumptions, share what is not working, not just what is working, and what most importantly, listen across disciplines. Because the next breakthrough in AI healthcare will not come from one field alone. It's not. It will be achieved through collaborations. So we're incredibly excited to host this gathering. What started as a small conversation has now grown into community, and today all of you are part of this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for contributing. We truly hope this conference becomes a place where the new ideas, new partnerships, and real impact begin. I really hope that even like one small technology that will help millions of patients started here, I will be really fulfilled. And welcome to AI Healthcare Conference in 2026 at Stanford campus.